You're listening to the TV Obsessive channel, presented by TVObscast.com.
Hello and welcome back to episode 71 of the TV Obsessive podcast. My name is Ryan Kirksey, writer and contributor for TVObsessive.com, and as always, joined by Cameron Crane, executive editor for the site. His favorite artist is also Kylie Minogue. Cameron, how you doing today?
Oh yeah, I can't get it out of my head. Um, yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good. You're referencing we got a nice Kylie Minogue reference and disclaimer this week. I don't
Yeah.
know how much we'll talk about that, but we'll definitely talk through episodes 3 and 4, which aired today. It's the day we're recording it. So it's October 18th. First, talk about what's been in the news a bit related to TV and all that kind of thing, as per usual. And then disclaimer in the second part of the pod. So I'll start with the news. I don't know that we have all that much here, but maybe some things that'll be interesting to talk about.
I think the most exciting thing for me is this new Silo trailer. I'm not ashamed to say this to you right now. It just looks freaking awesome. I mean, I cannot wait.
I think it does look pretty good. I did watch the trailer.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before, and I think we're gonna talk about Silo on the podcast. We're planning on it, and I do look forward to that. I look forward to season two. I hope that as we enter season two, it manages to kind of make me like it a little bit more. Like throughout season one, I thought that the premiere of season one, like the first couple episodes, like, oh, this is really good. I'm really into this. I'm gonna write about this week to week, and I did. And as it proceeded, I kind
Yeah.
of continually felt like, well, eh, and then maybe as it got to the end, I thought the finale was good, and the way that season one ended is okay.
Yeah.
Well, you got me. I'm
Yeah.
definitely going to continue, and all of that. So yeah, I mean, I am hopeful watching this trailer. Also, that now that we're getting to season two, it's like really getting going. Almost like season
Yes.
one was all preamble. Um,
Very,
so
very
so we'll
much
see.
feels that way. It very much feels like the sort of the conflict is very, I mean, it just punches you in the face. You can tell exactly what's going to be happening in this season. I think we get a quick glimpse at the new Steve Zahn character. So yeah, very, very excited about this.
Yeah, it should be good. But it'll be interesting as we go through season two. My other worry is that I might possibly maybe be on the side of the bad guys. Like they're clearly the
Ooh,
bad
okay.
guys in the
Oh,
show, but I might do I think they're right? Like, come on, I'm not entirely sure
hey,
I'm on the side of our heroine here.
we could just each take a side and do the podcast that way, every
Well,
week.
we'll see how it goes. We'll see if I feel that way as we proceed through season two of Silo. But we're looking forward to that. It comes out next month and is starting the week after Disclaimer ends. So I mean, I think we
That's
can go
right.
ahead and let
Four
people
week,
know
four
this is
weeks
our
from today.
plan. We'll wrap up Disclaimer and then go to Silo.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, very excited about that. That's coming extremely soon. We have some things that we now have several renewals for shows much farther in the future. Maybe again, just sticking with more Apple TV, several renewals, including as season four of Slow Horses ends, they've already renewed it for season five. Now we're getting a sixth season that's been guaranteed for this show. I mean, this show might go on forever.
Well, I mean, I think it is based on books, right? So it might
Yeah,
stop when
they
they
got
run out
plenty
of
of
source
books.
material.
That will be the
um,
question. When they run out, do they keep going? I mean, I don't know how many books there are. There might be plenty. I mean, plenty of
if
seasons
you
of this
if
show.
you had told me 5 years ago that there would be a running TV series on Apple TV Plus starring Gary Oldman, I'm not sure I would have believed you.
Yeah. And now he's come out and said he'll play this character as long as he possibly can.
Well, I mean, it's a great character,
Yeah,
you know
it
what I
is.
mean? But it's just, I mean, in part, it's the kind of shift that's occurred, and maybe I'm just a little old here to even feel this way at all, but where we've started to see people who, potentially have won Oscars or you think of as big name movie stars doing TV
Yep, yep.
shows. Didn't used to be that way. It used to feel like doing TV was some kind of step down or lesser thing. for an actor to be doing. But of course, here we are. We're about to continue talking about a show starring Kate Blanchett and Kevin Kline and
Exactly.
Sacha Baron Cohen. So
When they see the Amazon and the Apple paychecks, they'll do it.
right, but yeah, so we just moved beyond. It used to feel a bit like sometimes you would see this, but it would feel a bit like, oh, can't get roles in the movies anymore. So
That's
now
right.
they're doing TV, whereas we're seeing people who, I mean, like Emma Stone in The Curse last year, and so on and so forth. So I
Yeah,
guess that
yeah.
barrier is just like totally fallen away, and should stop thinking about it. Apple TV Plus also renewed Shrinking for season 3. I believe season 2 is I think we're in the middle of it right now. Have you ever watched this show? I think we've talked about this
I've never
before.
seen an episode of this. Yeah, I think season 2 might have just started. We're in the midst of that. But yeah, another quick renewal for this show. I did just happenstance catch some of Harrison Ford on Jimmy Kimmel. I guess it was
Hmm.
earlier this week or late last week. I, I don't know. For the first time, it seemed like he's 80 something years old. It just seems like a little bit, it was not quite catching or firing on all cylinders. It made me a little depressed, but I mean, hey, we're going to get this season and at least one more, and he's still working, so good for him.
I mean, part of the thing though, that where I think he fits in this show is that his character is kind of a cranky old man.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, he's not playing Han Solo at this point.
exactly. Yeah.
You know, I watched the first few episodes of this when it premiered originally, and at first I thought it was really good. I wrote on it for the site on the premiere, and then like as we got into even episode 3, I started to realize, okay, well, this is what the show is. You know,
Hmm.
that kind of feeling like the pilot isn't really what the show is. It's just setting up what the show is, if that makes sense. And as it started to find its footing like that, I don't know. I realized I wasn't all that into it. I think it's kind of a feel good show, and perhaps I don't enjoy feeling good. I don't.
Yeah, I've heard that's the sentiment or the sentimentality is the thing about the show, but I'll at some point have to check this out.
It's still like on. I didn't intentionally say, "Oh, I don't like this. I'm never going to watch it again." You know, what I thought was, "Oh, maybe I don't want to watch right on this week to week, but I'll keep
Hmm.
watching it." And then I didn't. So a lot of people really like it, and it's getting a lot of acclaim.
Yeah,
It's getting a third season now. I do really like Jason Segel. Harrison Ford's good in it. The whole cast is really pretty good, and
yeah.
so it's kind of on a list of things that I think, well, maybe I'll return to that at some point. You know, when maybe at some point I do want to feel good or whatever. You know, if I
Yeah.
want something kind of sentimental at first, because the premise of the show, Jason Segel is like a psychologist
Okay.
who is getting I don't know, he's what's right, a little bit disgruntled with the expectations of how he has to behave and not being able to say what he wants to say to his clients and things like this because of,
Yeah.
like professional norms. When I heard that premise, I thought, well, that could be really bad and problematic, actually. But so I wanted to check out the show, and at first, yeah, I thought, no, it's really not problematic. It's an interesting kind of exploration of that question. But at least I felt as it was moving forward, it became clear the show wasn't actually going to be about that. That was just kind of the
Oh,
setup.
okay. That was the introduction, but it's not a show about that. I understood.
I
Okay.
think, I think again, I
Yeah.
have to return to it and watch more in order to be able to say that. But a lot of people really, really like it. So
Yeah.
I'm sure people will be pleased to hear it's been renewed for season 3. Also
Yeah.
renewed for more seasons is Rick and Morty, which
Yeah.
I was surprised to read this round because I thought it had already been renewed for 11 million seasons.
Yeah. It's just gonna go in perpetuity. Yeah.
But it kind of it had already been renewed for like 3 more years. They go, oh, man,
Yeah.
let's push it out to 2029. I mean, this is getting like, it's almost reminiscent of some of these NFL contracts where you say those are phony baloney years. That guy's not going to play until he's
I did
35.
wonder if we were to be able to outline or create a TV guide from now until 2029. Is this the only show that we know would be on in 2029? I don't think anything else has been renewed that far out. I mean, this is, and part of it is we're now apparently in season 8 and they renewed it through season 12 because it's been taking so long to do these seasons, but they're going to
Yeah.
guarantee it through at least the end of the decade.
I seem to recall reading that the South Park guys also signed like a
Hmm.
super giga long contract, which was kind of surprising. I haven't
Yeah.
been watching South Park the last couple of years, and the last time I was watching it was before that story came out that they did that renewal. So this was probably 4 years ago or something. Um, and I was very much getting the feeling like I don't think Trey and Matt want to do this anymore. And then the news come out and they're like, "What, 20 more seasons and 5 movies." Like, oh, all right, I guess they like
Yeah,
money.
we'll get South Park and Rick and Morty and all these. Who knows how long we get all these animated shows for forever? It seems like.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, if
Which,
it's the Simpsons Family Guy model, we're just getting started with a show like Rick and Morty.
man, South Park's already been on for over 25 years.
Exactly,
It was
exactly.
on when I was in high school was when it premiered. It's kind of nuts, and that's fine. And maybe I'll check out South Park again at some point in the future. I know I did read something where they said they're like on hiatus until
Mm.
after the election's over. They're like, we don't have anything more to say about this politics. We don't have any more jokes about Trump. We're over it.
Oh my
They said this
gosh.
explicitly. So maybe as we move into whatever era is coming next, part of me does kind of wish that they would just go write musicals, though, because the Book
Yeah,
of Mormon was exceptionally good, and the South Park movie is a musical. They can write
yeah.
musicals. Their first film was a musical, also Cannibal. Anyway,
Quite good. I'd say that we're about to talk about another animated show right now. But again, this genre just continues to get stronger and I think deeper as we see more and more of these things come. The next thing we'll move on to is Invincible, which is getting a season 3. It now has a premiere date, February 6th. We'll go week to week through March. Of course, the Robert Kirkman graphic novel. Stephen Yoon is the voice of this teen superhero. I've not caught any of these shows before, but in terms of the genre, the superhero genre, this isn't, wedged into some of these other things that we've seen in, traditional comic book or superhero type shows. Apparently, this is quite good. I just have never caught any of it before.
yeah, same. And I kind of thought that I would because I'd heard really good things about the source material, and some people I respect were really excited they're making a TV show.
Mhm.
And we do have articles on the site on the first season that Nick Luciano wrote. Um, and I thought I would watch it and then just didn't find time. Just
Yeah, yeah, same.
in one of those periods where I start feeling like there's too much TV.
Exactly.
Um, but yeah, I've heard really good things, and it's cool that it's getting a season 3. I do know that this falls into the category of kind of dark superhero slash critiquing the genre from within sort of
Yeah,
narrative, you know.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, this is not
so
just teen fights crime show. This is many deeper layers than that, as I understand.
yeah, it's more I know some things about the plot and I was about to say them, but yeah, maybe those are spoilers. I'm not sure what's the premise and what's the spoiler on this one. But season 3 coming February 6th. So if you're
Yep.
a fan of Invincible, that's something to look forward to. And then another show on Prime Video, right? That I've heard good things about and haven't gotten around to watching myself is Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Did you watch season 1?
I have not seen this show, but it is actually, yeah, it is on my list because I keep hearing people see or say how good this was. This was the Donald Glover, Maya Erskine reimagining of the Mr. and Mrs. Smith movie, of course, with Brad
Yeah.
Pitt, Angelina Jolie, where a couple comes together, puts on new identities, and are spies. And yeah, so we knew there would be a second season, but they have forgone what was rumored to happen, which is they may find a different Mr. and Mrs. Smith each season. So more of an anthology type series. So Glover and Erskine not going to be reprise these roles. Um, And apparently Billie Eilish is in rumor talks to be one of the leading candidates this time. But yeah, this is all to be determined.
Well, hold up a little bit because I read this article that you put on our show sheet, and
Hmm.
they're being very cagey about whether that's what's happening, right?
Yeah.
Like, are the leads from season one going to be in season two? They're really pulling we're going to keep it in house who's going to be the starting quarterback this week. You don't get to know,
Yeah.
right? So just to know, there's a little bit of speculation going on there. It does seem that they're casting what appear to be lead roles in a way that would feed into the idea that that is what's going to happen, and you're going to have different actors playing the leads now in season two from season one, which is interesting. But I guess season one ended on a cliffhanger, and they don't want to
Yeah.
give
And
away the
there are some
resolution in
quotes
press
in this
releases.
story that sort of spoil what that is. If you're not interested in knowing what that cliffhanger is, you might want to avoid every bit of this deadline story that we'll link to. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I want to hold back on that. I don't know why they do this kind of stuff personally. Like,
yeah,
I don't mind hugely being who I am, but like, what are you doing putting these spoilers in
yeah,
the press release story? You know, so
exactly,
if you'll recall the way
exactly.
the season one ended, like, it's like, oh, come on, man.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe I should have been more forceful. There's some major spoilers in the quotes if you choose to read this story. But yeah, it sort of sets up what might or might not be new leads for the show. Yeah, so we'll see. So apparently, one of them said, "Oh, is this going to be more like Fargo, where we've got different leads and different stories and different locales and maybe even different timelines each show?" And one of the leads said, "Maybe." So it's all to be determined. It seems like.
It's interesting. I mean, I've heard so many good things about this show, and it kind of surprised me because I have seen the film
Hmm.
and I thought it was fine.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's not something that stands out to me as like, oh, that was a great movie. You know, but it was
Right,
fine,
right. I
entertaining
think
enough.
the predominant
Um,
thought or theory that I heard was that the show itself, the plot itself is, fine for a couple action spy mystery, but that the chemistry between Glover and Erskine was apparently amazing.
yeah, I should have never doubt Donald Glover.
Right, right.
The man's got chops, right? So when I saw he was involved, I should have pinged my radar better. I should have made time for it when it came out, and I didn't, and so it became another thing on the to watch list. Which someday there'll be time.
Yeah.
Someday,
Someday there won't be this much TV.
boom.
Those are some famous last words. Okay, yeah. But what are we watching if we're not watching Mr. and Mrs. Smith right now?
Well, I mean, I guess I'll go first. I was just mentioning to you as we got on. I didn't like this just hit YouTube. I just literally watched it like half an hour before we started recording. Um, interview with Tim Walz on the Rich Eisen show,
Ah,
which
okay.
I watch Rich Eisen. I mean, I'm always watching clips of it on YouTube.
Yeah.
So like I watch that regularly enough that I'm subscribed to their feed or whatever. And I saw that pop up. And as someone who has wanted to hear Tim Walz talk about football, I thought, well, here's the opportunity. And I was correct, right? Because since
Yes.
he was nominated as the vice presidential candidate, learning about him that he used to be a football coach, defensive coordinator,
Right.
you know, what kind of defense did he run? So if you're curious about such things in this 15-minute interview with Rich Eisen, I think that's pretty much the first question Rich Eisen asks. What kind of defense did you run?
Correct. Well, did he give his thoughts on cover two safeties?
They didn't talk about two high safeties. They probably should have, but Walls, it becomes apparent that it's kind of been a while. He's more of an old school defensive coach running a
Yeah.
kind of 4-4. Um, and they get into that, and they talk a bit about the Vikings and the upcoming game between the Vikings and the Detroit Lions, which should be a
Yep.
good one. And of course, Walls is a Vikings fan. As the governor of Minnesota, I think that would be a requirement.
Yeah, exactly.
And not really, they don't really get into politics. I mean, like, there's a little bit at the very end
Yeah.
that is along the lines of, okay, we're wrapping up. Feel free to say something about why people should vote for you.
Right, exactly.
you know,
Well, we'll
so
see. We'll see if this one dominates the airwaves like some of the other interviews of candidates have done this week. I don't know if we want to get into that at all, but yeah, there have been some doozies this week of interviews
Yeah.
on various networks.
I mean, total opposite ends of the spectrum. I mean, I will say, to stick with the Tim Walz interview for a moment, I think this is incredibly smart that
Oh
they're
yeah.
doing,
Oh gosh, yeah.
from the campaign perspective. You know, I, I thought that they should do this from as soon as I learned, Tim Walz has that background as a football coach and everything. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, put him on Rich Eisen. I think they specifically thought that he should go on Rich Eisen. Um, but yeah, I mean, the Kamala Harris interview on Fox was the absolute other end of the spectrum, the most kind of adversarial,
Right.
divisive thing.
Throw decorum and respect out the window and just
I
battle it out. Yeah.
I did watch it though, and I guess the one note that I would make, and as I was saying to you before we got on, I don't want to like go down the rabbit hole of like actually really talking about politics substantively. It's a TV podcast. But in terms of the viewing experience, one thing that stood out to me, a lot of people were pointing out how Brett Bauer was interrupting her,
Yes.
which is true. However, it was also not true because she didn't let him. And so,
She didn't let herself, you're right, didn't let herself get interrupted by him on that constant barrage. Yeah.
yeah, she didn't stop talking. Like he tried to interrupt her, and she would just keep talking. And I thought that was impressive. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I don't know, let's say much more than that, I guess,
Yeah.
about that. I do not recommend per se that you go watch that Fox News interview with
Yeah.
Kamala Harris. I do recommend you watch Tim Walz Talking Ball with Rich Eisen.
Yeah. Yeah. That one I will go watch after we are done here. I will not revisit Fox News or Univision or any of the others from this week.
Univision, that's oh
Yeah.
man. Okay, well, people want to listen to us talk about TV to escape from all of the
That's right.
horrors of the world. We'll leave it at that.
That's right. That's
Um,
right. Well, speaking of the woke mob, I have a recommendation to make, which is the comedy short, traditional 21-minute show on FX called The English Teacher. This is created, produced, starred by Brian Jordan Alvarez. I've caught the first, I think, 5 episodes. It's 8 episodes in this first season that started back at the end of August. This show takes place. We spend some time in the past couple weeks talking about Abbott Elementary and just sort of
mhm.
the environment there about this school and these teachers. This show is about a high school in Austin, Texas, that stars Brian Jordan Alvarez as a openly gay teacher who is required to teach English to, I mean, every stereotype of every woke teenager you could ever imagine. And sort of what happens when you put them all together in Texas with Texas stereotypes. It is poignant and it is funny and it is I can't wait to watch the last three episodes. I mean, their take on how woke teenagers would think about Powerpuff and what they think about gun safety. It hits some current issues, but they do it in a very funny way.
Say Powerpuff?
Pa- yeah, Powderpuff football. Do you know Powderpuff football?
No, I thought you were talking
Oh,
about like the Powerpuff Girls or
no,
something.
powder puff football is where, and this is a big thing in the South. So I mean, I guess this maybe hasn't made its way up there yet, but this is part of the of the plot of this episode. This teacher doesn't know about it. Powder puff football is every year the girls, so the cheerleaders, the dance team, others that want to play a game of flag football against one another.
Oh, so it's like the Victoria's Secret lingerie bowl
Yeah,
thing, kind
yeah,
of.
but and then the football players become the cheerleaders and the dance
Oh, I
team,
see.
right? So it's sort of this swap. Yeah, I mean, we did this in my school when I was in high school. And so yeah, this teacher doesn't quite understand it. There are teens that are offended about the football players dressing up as cheerleaders. So it is it's quite funny.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have to check the show out. I've heard so many good things from so many good people, and now you're coming on here saying you watched it and enjoying
Yeah,
it a lot. And I you might understand my resistance. And you just explained the premise. There is some part of
yeah,
me that goes, no. Also because like I have experience in the classroom setting as a
yep,
teaching and all of that,
yep,
and there can be a real tendency for fictional portrayals to just miss
yeah,
wildly. So,
But don't get me wrong. I think there's some intentional misses. There's some intentional, like we're going to take these stereotypes to 11, right, of what
yeah,
they're trying to represent. So that's purposefully done. But yeah, I mean, everything from transgender to triggered conversation. I mean, just everything you can think of is like a topic of one of the episodes of the show. But it's done in a smart way. It's not a farce, I should say.
yeah. I'm curious, and I'm just gonna have to watch it so I can have an opinion. I can't have an
Yeah,
opinion
yeah.
without actually seeing how they are doing what you're talking about.
Yeah, like, none of them are more than 21 minutes. Easy watch. You can fly through them all in a couple hours. It's yeah, good show.
Cool. Yeah, and everyone says it's good. It seems like everyone says it's good. That also, I'm a weirdo. Like that makes me nervous. Like I'm gonna hate this thing everyone likes. Yeah. But yeah, I'll check it out. Yeah, maybe I will this weekend and we can revisit next week and give some impressions on that. I need some things to watch that aren't circulating around politics or
Yeah,
football. I mean,
yeah,
the
yeah.
football is kind of like it's kind of fine in a way. Like at least I'm not watching political commentary.
Right, right.
But I probably don't need to watch as many fantasy football analysts as I have been the past couple weeks. Just weed out some of them.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but all right. So let's talk about disclaimer.
Absolutely.
Episodes 3 and 4, titled fittingly 3 and 4. I saw someone referring to them as chapters, but it doesn't say that on the screeners around the show. It just says
Nope.
Roman numeral 3, Roman numeral 4. So we'll dig in on that. This will include spoilers for everything that's happened through the first 4 episodes of Disclaimer on Apple TV Plus. So if you're not caught up, beware. If you missed it last week, we talked about episodes 1 and 2. If you have an interest in going back and listening to that conversation first, or later. And yeah, we'll pop in a little bit of music here and pick up on the other side, talking about Disclaimer 3 and 4.
Okay, we are back to talk about Disclaimer on Apple TV Plus, looking at episodes 3 and 4. The show written and directed by Alfonso Cuarón, taken from a 2015 Renee Knight novel of the same name. In these episodes, we start to go back to Italy, where Catherine and Jonathan's relationship becomes extremely intimate for a day before Jonathan tells Catherine that he wants to come back to London with her and start a relationship with her. Well, Catherine tells him that that just can't happen, which leads to a rift between them. While they are separated, Catherine falls asleep on the beach. Her son Nicholas takes his small boat into the ocean, drifting far, far away. Jonathan sees him and is able to rescue Nicholas, but drowns while trying to bring him back to shore. Catherine, after recovering her son, walks away as if she never knew him. Sometime later, Steve and Nancy are still stricken with grief after going to Italy to identify Jonathan's body. This leads Nancy to try and see what drowning feels like in her own tub. She moves permanently into Jonathan's room. Eventually, she is diagnosed with cancer. In the more present timeline, Catherine is reeling from Robert discovering her affair. She tracks down, calls Stephen, leaving a voicemail in hopes that this will help and assuage the situation and hopefully encourage Stephen to leave her alone. Catherine also discovers that her favorite bookstore has been selling many copies of the book that Stephen published, A Perfect Stranger. She also attempts to reconcile with Robert, but Robert packs a bag for her, calls a cab, and tells her to leave. Cameron, there are TV shows you can watch on an airplane. There are TV shows you cannot watch on an airplane. This is clearly not a show, I've learned, you can watch on an airplane after these 2 episodes.
Yeah, or if the airline was providing it, it would be censored. Which
Very much so.
happened to me years ago. I watched The Last King of Scotland on an airplane, and there was no indication that it was a censored version of the film.
Oh, okay.
They didn't tell me, and I found out later because people were talking about it, and I was like, well, I didn't see that. But anyway, yeah, lots of sexy time, pretty explicit stuff. That's fine. It's good. You in your summary there, I think fairly kind of put things in chronological order. One thing I did think was interesting over the course of these two episodes is the jump between three timelines, one of which we did not get in the first two episodes,
Yeah, we
which
sort of
is
got a middle timeline now where
mhm.
Steve and Nancy are dealing, I guess, months, years later with their grief of losing Jonathan, how much that has affected Nancy.
Yeah, basically starting when they find out, they're out back grilling and the cops come around, tell them, and uh, that was well done.
Yeah.
It made me think about, man, that would be
Yeah, no.
that would, I
I
mean,
I upon
yeah,
here at one point I wanted to just talk about how amazing I think Kevin Kline has been in this show. I think in many ways he sort of had the best performance in my mind. And this scene as he deals with Nancy, as he has become this older, sort of revenge focused man, he plays so many roles so well.
yeah, agreed. I think he's doing great work here. I mean, really, they all are. I don't have, well, maybe I do have some quibbles about the younger Catherine. I should have made a note of the actor's name here. Do you have it?
Yes,
I'll
her
look it
name
up.
is Layla George.
Leila George.
Used to be married to Johnny Depp.
Okay.
Yep.
Um, no, I feel like I'm I just wanted to mention her name to give her credit, but now I feel like I'm gonna turn around and be like, yeah, I don't know, good of a job you're doing. But
Fun fact, her father is Vincent D'Onofrio.
really,
Yes.
that makes me feel old.
Yeah.
Um, because she's like, I don't know how old she is, but
She is
anyway,
30, 31 or
yeah,
32. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I mean, like, I think she does fine, right? So
Yeah.
I don't mean to be overly negative about her performance. But one thing I did want to talk about is how some of those scenes, or maybe all of them, if we want this to apply to all of them,
Yeah.
they feel a little bit, I don't know, stilted or something. Like in particular, her seduction of Jonathan when they're
Yeah.
having wine at the bar,
Yeah.
and all the Kylie Minogue stuff, which you referenced at the beginning of our hour here together. Um, that didn't really work for me. And
Yeah. It was a very strange scene. Now I'm curious to know your thoughts. Go ahead.
I was just going to say it didn't feel realistic.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt exactly the same way. And Jonathan's reactions are like he's this nervous wreck, which I guess, okay, you would be, but it just, yeah, it just seemed like awkwardness leading to this passion and just, yeah, just like does not compute type of thing for me.
So here's what it made me wonder, though, to try to spin this in a more positive direction. What if what we're seeing is the book, right? In other words, the convention of what they do in these scenes where they have the kind of I'm sure there's a term for this, it's eluding me. You know what I'm talking about, where it kind of like the comes into the center, goes out,
Yes, yes, yeah.
um, and maybe even that's a clue, right? So maybe
Hmm.
what we're seeing is a portrayal of the events as they are written in the book A Perfect Stranger, as opposed to the reality of what happened.
I think, yeah, you may have hit the nail on the head here. I think briefly touched on this last week, but the idea that um the book is obviously written from the perspective of a mother who wrote this on clues that she has identified in some way and would surely want to paint her son in a light where he is blameless or faultless in this whole situation. He seems very nervous. He seems very scared. It's almost like in the intimate scenes that Catherine is forcing him to do things. We get some of that. So yeah, I do wonder, is this
Mhm.
the perspective that comes from the book, and then are we going to see another perspective, or even are we seeing two different perspectives at the same time, and we just haven't had a sense to or a way to reconcile that yet?
I guess my hope is that this is the perspective of events as they are in the book,
Yeah,
because then it becomes interesting,
right.
right? And then instead of it being a criticism that something feels a bit off, or I just don't kind of quite buy the seduction or what have you, I
Yeah.
can take that in the direction of saying, well, okay, but this is Jonathan's mother, Nancy, recreating it, and it's actually the version in the book is like a not great romance novel kind of style. And to offer another bit of potential evidence for this theory, I did notice that Jonathan had a Kylie Minogue poster in his bedroom.
Oh, I didn't see that. That's great. Well, we
When
did
she's
get,
like going through his stuff,
yeah, she's
right?
going through his room. She's looking through his stuff. The one time in the whole episode where she seems somewhat content and happy was going through all of his old things, including a set of photographs. And we did, I believe, in this third episode, get confirmation that Nancy took the roll of film from Jonathan's belongings when they went
Mm.
to identify him. We know that when Stephen uncovered the novel, the pictures were there developed. And so I guess she is putting the pieces together of what happened based on these photographs, and sort of crafting a story. It's sort of like if is the story we're seeing has to be from the book because that's the only narrative that anyone alive can attest to because Catherine's sure not saying anything about it.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, like, look, the other option would be that the TV series disclaimer is showing us the reality of events,
Right.
that occurred in the past. But I think there are enough indications to lead me to the thought that that's not what's going on. We're not
Yeah.
seeing what quote unquote actually happened. And I hope that your suggestion is right, that we will later see what actually happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe that's a
That would not
possibility.
surprise me at all. That would not surprise me. Again, we need to learn. This is another conversation from last week. We need to learn what's in that book. We need to learn that perspective, that story, what leads people who read it to say, for example, the bookstore owner to say, that is an awful, awful woman in that book, right? What we need to know what it is that makes them feel that. It has to be the perspective from that book, I would think at this point.
Yeah, so let's go in that direction. And I guess tentatively kind of presume that what we're seeing is the version of events in the book.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's possible that that's like reality, diegetic reality would be the term. It's possible that's a real sequence of events within the reality of the show. But maybe it's the book. It is very noteworthy to me that it seems like everyone who reads this book says, yeah, she got what she deserved. She is an awful woman.
Yes.
So let's talk about that. Did she, from what we've seen, is it really that bad? What do you think,
Yeah,
Ryan?
so we brought up this question last week, and I've been thinking about it since. There must be more to this story because what we have seen so far is a woman who had this 1 day long affair with this young man. No one else knows about it except the two of them. And the only conflict that's been there is when he says, I want to go back to London, but then he actually tries to save her son. He's dead. She walks away. I mean, that's the worst thing we've seen so far. So is that what makes her an awful, awful woman? And I don't see it either.
Right. I mean, like, I don't even know if that is that the worst thing, because I'm almost tempted to say, well, I mean, okay, clearly what she did was like not great.
Yeah,
The point's not to defend it necessarily, right? Is it morally defensible to cheat on your husband with some kid you just met while
right.
your literal little kid is sleeping in the next room? I mean, it's like, this is not great,
Yeah, yeah,
but I mean, it's not bad enough for me to think, well, she certainly deserves to be put up against the wall and shot in the back of the head, which it seems
yeah.
like is how people are reacting.
And that's the other piece is we don't know what the outcome is. They're all reading something saying she's awful. She got what she deserved. We don't know the what she got part yet,
I
right?
believe
So,
Nicholas said in the book she dies.
oh, okay. I may have to go back and revisit that. I don't remember that.
I think it's a pretty quick comment, but I kind
Okay,
of made a note
okay.
of it. I think I'm right. We can go back and double check. But you are right. Regardless, we don't know exactly how or
Yeah.
what or
If that's the
um,
case, did she kill herself? Did she have an accident? We don't know any of that yet.
right. To what extent is it presented as punishment? But it does seem like everyone who reads the book says, "Well, she's awful."
Yeah.
And then also, taking the perspective of Stephen and Nancy, I mean, of course they would be distraught about this. Of course, this is terrible to lose your son. Um, their motivation
Yeah.
to enact revenge on Catherine, I'm sorry, it also just feels slightly undermotivated to me. I don't know. I don't know if I think that what she did is so awful. It's not like she murdered him.
Yeah. And they have one version of events that's been told to them by the consulate and Italian police that there was an accident. The lifeguards were busy attending to someone else. He went out and died. I think they told them trying to rescue someone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what version of that puts Catherine as sort of this villain?
Nancy wants to meet her and finds
Yeah,
out that they've already gone back to London. And like, okay, that's rude,
yeah,
perhaps. Maybe that's inconsiderate to just go ahead and leave as planned, given that Jonathan has died and so on. Yeah, but still, I don't know that that's huge.
yeah,
Even if we take the portrayal we get as factual, um, there is a moment in there where she sees that he's still out there. She knows that he's still out there, and she does not alert the others
yes,
that he's still out there.
yes,
And she says in the present to Robert that she wanted Jonathan to die,
yes.
which I don't know. I felt a little
But there's no
shoehorned
way
into me.
Stephen and Nancy would know that. There's no way.
I mean, you could imagine that this is the case or something like that, and give that kind of portrayal that, because this stupid kid fell in love with her, he wasn't supposed to do
Yeah,
that.
right.
She wanted him dead and allowed him to die on purpose. But even from what we see, it doesn't quite land as it being that, you know.
Yeah. But I also think
Um,
you're making a good point that Catherine admitting that to Robert here in the present timeline that she wanted him to die is perhaps the one thing that synergizes itself with what's we're seeing. So with that actual reality or just the perspective of what the parents describe in the book, it seems like in both versions, Catherine is very comfortable with, oh, you've died trying to save my son. That doesn't bother me too much.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, like maybe there is at least some truth there. But okay, here's another thing I want to talk about. They have their kind of altercation when Jonathan says, I'm going to come back to London with you. Like, you don't have to leave your husband right away. I was like, oh no, buddy.
Right.
Oh no, buddy. And she says basically absolutely not. Um, thinking about Nicholas, she'd asked some other woman to watch him. She's gone for a while. I mean, I don't know how long, but it must have been like at least 15 minutes.
At least.
It feels longer, but I'm saying, like even if you want to shorten it up as much as it could possibly be, it's probably at least 15 minutes.
It was long enough that that woman that she asked to watch him does not appear to be there anymore.
Right,
She's
she
like,
just left. That's
left.
what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Um, which I've had experiences like that. And you're just going like, hey, but then at the same time, you have to realize it was like, well, I was gone a while.
Yep.
Um, but the kid's still just sitting there, right? He's fine.
Yeah.
He's perfectly fine. And he's got that little, raft, inflatable raft thing. I don't even know why he has that thing. But he's just sitting there, he's fine. And then she says, mom's going to take a nap. Don't go anywhere, right? And she proceeds to take a nap, which is clearly in part, I don't know what, almost a move against Jonathan. Like,
Yeah.
leave
Yeah.
me alone. I'm not talking to you. I'm not looking at you. You should be leaving the beach right now as
Yeah.
I close my eyes. And when I open my eyes, you should be gone. Right.
Yeah.
I felt like She was trying to communicate that, but she does fall asleep, and then that's the thing. There's a gap here, right? Because when she wakes up, Nicholas is out in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea.
Hmm.
Jonathan's still lying right over there where he was before.
Yes.
All right, so and the weather is kind of picked up, you know.
Yeah.
But so how'd the kid get in the middle of the sea?
Yeah. I mean, living near the ocean, have some experience with taking my kids out into the water, and I mean, clearly we're not going to let them go out on their own, but I don't know how you get into a little inflatable raft like that and end up 300 yards away from the beach.
Right, like wouldn't you have to do some active work to get through the
Yes.
initial waves?
If you're a little inflatable raft and you're a 4-year-old kid that weighs 40 pounds or whatever, no, you're not going to end up a quarter mile away from the shore. I don't think that would happen.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, maybe it's a big question. It's something that started bothering me. And my first thought was, well, I don't know that we're going to find out. You know, I think maybe we're just supposed to accept this, but I'm not so sure as I thought about it.
I see where you might be going with this, and I've not thought about this before, but I'm wondering where you're headed is what I'm thinking.
Well, I'm wondering. All right, so is it plausible that the kid just wandered down there and was in the water, and then the weather picked up somehow, and the weather picking up like sucked him out to sea? I guess
Yeah.
maybe, right? But what if this is the big
Oh, this is
speculative
the stuff.
theory that maybe you see coming?
This is the stuff I love. Yes.
What if Jonathan did it?
Yep. I love it. I
What
love
if
it.
Jonathan purposely put that kid out to sea so that he could rescue the kid?
Yep. Get back in her good graces.
Yeah,
Yep. We were right about Lady in the Lake. We
yeah, I
might
was
be
thinking
right
about
about
that.
this too.
I was thinking about
Um,
that.
I
I kind of
I am now that I'm processing this in real time. I'm a fan of this theory. He does not seem to want to accept, at least immediately, he does not want to accept no for an answer. He does not want to have his Catherine turn her back on him. So what can I do while she is asleep to put her back into wanting to I mean, I presume he thinks that doing an action like that would put them back in some sort of relationship together. Why not try it? He's 19 years old. It's the best I can come up with.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bad plan if he did it, but I mean, let's consider the other possibility. Maybe there's some third possibility that I'm not landing on, right?
Yeah.
But like Jonathan is sitting there, Catherine starts taking a nap. If Nicholas decided to take his little raft down to the sea, which again doesn't quite feel to me like something that kid would do from what we've seen of
Yeah.
the kid. But anyway, if he did do that, what was Jonathan doing? Just watching him?
Yeah.
Did
I mean,
Jonathan take a nap too?
he was asleep when he heard Catherine call out to him, but was he actually asleep? Obviously, we don't know that.
Was he was shown as being asleep?
Yeah, I believe he was shown as being asleep, but I mean, clearly, if you do that, I'm gonna go out there in the water and play with you, and then run back and pretend like I'm asleep, and then have him be rescued. But then you're sort of counting on Catherine waking up and seeing him, and yeah, it's a horrible plan, whether it's true or not.
Yeah, I don't know if it quite fits. But again, if the version that we saw is the version as written in the book, then maybe it's not accurate with regard to something that would relate directly to this, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Um,
I still think there's got to be more to the layers of Catherine being that awful. This obviously contributes to it, but there's got to be more.
yeah, or weirdly, like on the theory I just floated, maybe she's not so super awful, and Jonathan was actually the one who was
Yeah, exactly.
got
Exactly.
himself into this situation where he ended up
Yeah.
drowning,
No, this is my
Um,
new favorite theory for this show. All right, I'm glad you brought this up.
we'll see. As always, Ryan, when I land on stuff like this, and then I start thinking, well, like, I hope they do better than that. I hope I'm not right. I
Yeah.
hope I hope I hope I didn't call it. Um,
Look, there's only 3 episodes left.
yeah,
I mean, there's not much time here to tell the rest of this story. I mean, we clearly have to resolve what happened to her in the book. Does that parallel what happened to her in real life? So we've got to get to that by the last episode. So there's not
mhm.
much story left to tell here.
Yeah, and what is going to happen to her in real life?
Yeah,
Where is she even going to go
right.
now that Robert has kicked her out of the house? I don't know where she's going to go. Go to a hotel or something? Does
Yeah,
she have
I mean,
friends? I don't know if she has friends.
pull the Robert plan, just sleep in the car for, you know, for a night. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I don't think she's going to do that. And also, she needs a plan that's more than a night. None of those people she works with seem like her friends.
No,
Oh my
not
God,
at
is she
all.
going to go impose on her assistant?
Yeah,
It's possible. I'm not, just to be clear, I'm
really,
not saying that we're seeing that it's a good
right.
person.
And her poor assistant really took it on the chin in that last episode, man.
Yeah, he's trying to do her job, Catherine. Um, yeah, so we'll see about that. I'm curious, as you mentioned, there's only 3 episodes left. This is I don't usually like saying things like this in general because I'm a big fan of TV, but I did start thinking during these 2 episodes, like maybe this could have been a movie. Like, is there really enough story for 7 hours? Or
Yeah, I've read some commentary about the show, various things that people are writing, and there's a undercurrent of, oh, Coron made a 6.5 hour movie here. Yeah, there's some of that.
yeah, but then like could have been 3.
Yeah, exactly,
You got the work done in 2.5.
exactly.
But I mean I don't want to say that too strongly because personally I enjoy watching television and
Yeah,
I enjoy episodic stories, but I do think there with some of the stuff there may have been ways to like
yeah,
work through it more efficiently. I think it could have. Let me say
yeah,
this. Let me put it this way. I think this could have been a film.
yeah.
Would
Oh,
it have
completely
been
agree.
better as a film? I don't know. Maybe we can ask that question again once we watch the next
Yeah, we'll
three
see.
episodes. Does
Which,
it
by the
feel
way,
like it's really dragging or what?
yeah, I have felt that, and I mentioned to see if I continue to feel that, and but part of what is interesting, and I don't think you could have done in a movie, maybe you could have, is there's some interesting stuff written out there online about the cat
Oh yeah.
and how the cat plays into this. Like basically, he would, they would set up their scenes, they would block their scenes, they would rehearse their scenes, they'd go through everything, they know the lines, and then at random times he'll just throw the cat in the scene and just have it just sort
Nice.
of cause chaos. So it's just interesting stuff. Again, just trying to have fun as he's working on a TV show, I guess.
That's cool. That's cool. Their cat is not well trained.
No,
And I
not
know
at
some
all.
people might say, "Oh, you can't train a cat." Yes, you can. Here's the thing: I've had lots of cats in my life, and when the cat jumps up on the kitchen counter, here's the thing: you have to pick up the cat and throw it off the kitchen counter every time.
Every time.
You have to do it every time. If there's one time you're like, I don't feel like getting up and taking the cat off the counter, now the cat knows you're not serious. Now
Yeah,
the cat's won. The game's over. You have to consistently take the cat off the counter every single time you see it on the counter. Cats are smart enough to know that you know they're on the counter and you're letting them get away with it.
for those who want to make their complaints about camera treatment of pets, just Cameron Crane of CTV. I don't know what you're.
I'm not saying to be harsh about it. Don't throw the cat off the counter hard. You just like pick it up, just toss it down the floor, toss the cat out on the floor. You're not allowed to be on the counter,
Right, right.
and they'll stop doing it. But you have to be consistent. If they know that they're on the counter and you're not doing anything about it,
Yep.
then
That's it. They win. They
they
win.
win. They win. But I do enjoy the cat factoring in here, and I am enjoying this show. Again, the performances are all really good.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know anything else we want to hit on here before we wrap up.
Yeah, I think we've hit the kind of the high points here. Glad we got to talk through some of those. Yeah, I think there's a couple of enduring mysteries here that will likely get wrapped up. But I like the theorizing of this show, not knowing the perspective, not knowing exactly the timeline, not knowing the
Yeah.
what was written in that book. So I'm still curious to and interested to see how that's all uncovered.
Oh, should we very briefly return to the what year is it question? Um, what year did Jonathan and Catherine have the affair, I guess, in
Yeah,
particular?
yeah. Did we
Um,
settle on 2011 or is it something different?
I feel like it has to be earlier, particularly now that we've got the Kylie Minogue reference. She also mentions Kate
Yeah.
Moss,
That's right. Yeah.
Kate Moss's heyday was in the late 1990s, I think, right?
Yeah, and Catherine looks so much younger than she does in the present time. Like, it's got to be earlier than that.
If we could find out how old Nicholas is in the present, we would have a definitive answer.
Exactly.
Because we know he was 4. He says, I'm 4, right? That's a lot. You have that whole thing, right? So if we imagine, and but the thing is, we also don't know for sure what year it is in the present timeline, right? I mean,
Exactly.
we could say, hey, they have smartphones, it must be 2024, or it could be, 2018. I don't know that they've given us anything that would confirm that sort of thing. I don't know. It's weird because it feels like there is an answer and they just haven't fully told us, and
Yeah. And
maybe it
maybe
doesn't matter a lot.
It might be applicable to what was going to happen next. So we'll probably find out later.
But I am personally, I'm landing on like early aughts. It has to be in a space where it would potentially make sense for him to have a Kylie Minogue poster on his wall, / for Catherine to, list those names as potential celebrity crushes. I think it would have to be kind of early aughts. It's definitely after 1999. You know that for sure. But okay, so thanks as always for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast, please do leave a good rating, review. If you're watching the YouTube video, press that thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. Really appreciate it. We'll be back next week talking about episode 5 of Disclaimer. In the meantime, I encourage you to check out TVObscast.com. We publish articles there regularly on various TV shows and all of that good stuff. You can follow the site on social media, search for TV Obsessive. You should be able to find us on the major platforms, including Blue Sky, where we're probably maybe the most active. Even there's a bit of an exodus, another exodus from Twitter to Blue Sky this week. I noticed another terms of service change or whatever. I don't know. Encourage people get on Blue Sky. It's the future.
It's crumbling.
Blue Sky is the future. Anyway, that's my position. Anyway, or don't use social media at all. Take care of your mental health. Anyway, we'll leave it there. Again, we'll be back next week, continuing on with Disclaimer, and we'll see you then.
All right. See you next time.